welcome to Vlogmas day 14. I've got my Christmas jumper on again. Today's video is some Christmas baking that I've been doing. Now, I love cooking, I love baking, I love eating yummy things, but I really wanted to try and stay on plan as much as possible over the festive period, and so I tried to think of a couple of different things that were Slimming World friendly but still with a Christmassy theme, kind of festive theme. So, oh excuse me, if you're looking for something, got something in my eye then, if you're looking for something festive but not too high in sins, then these three bakes might be the thing for you. The first one is a chocolate orange cake, which uses your healthy extra bee of oats, and I did make a kind of an icing to go over the top of it, because I don't know about you, but the icing for me is one of the best bits of the cake. But normal icing obviously uses sugar, sometimes butter, cream, which are not great things for us slimmers. So I tried to make it as Slimming World friendly as possible, and they work out at healthy extra bee and 3 sins each. Then I wanted to do something along the mince pie, kind of going down that route. But I did have a mince pie a couple of weeks ago when I was away, and I did scan it, and they were quite small, and I think they were about 14 sins each, which was a lot, you know, and I put on £2 that week. So I wanted to try and do some mince pies that were much lower in sin. Now, you can use phyllo pastry to keep the sins down, but I can't eat phyllo pastry because I don't eat gluten. So I thought about using a gluten-free wrap instead. So the ones that I make, they work out at 3.5 sins each, I think, but double check when I get to that bit. And they were delicious, really yummy, quite easy to make. Then the last bake is some ginger and almond spiced biscuits. Again, quite Christmassy, really yummy, using up your healthy extra bee and just a couple of sins. So really worth it, and you know, you're going to feel great on the scales as well. You've had a yummy sweet treat, but you've not put on any weight, so it's a win-win. Anyway, I hope you enjoy them. Let me know if you try any of them. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. The first recipe I'd like to share with you is chocolate orange cakes. You will need 40 grams of porridge oats blended, 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of fat-free quark, a little, probably a capful of whichever kind of syrup you like. I used Splendid syrups, 1 teaspoon of raw cacao powder, which is 1 sin, 1 teaspoon of Jim Jam's chocolate orange spread, which is also 1 sin, a little bit of baking powder, about 1/4 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon of sweetener, and the zest of 1 orange. So basically you just mix all of this together until it looks a bit like this. Put it into your moulds and then bake it in the oven for mine took about 40 minutes I think in the end, but I did check them after half an hour. I've used these little moulds that I got from eBay, and I've made double the quantities here that I was telling you. So because Martin wanted to try these as well, so I used double what I said earlier, but you can just do a single amount. For the icing, I'm using quark, the juice of an orange, and 1 teaspoon of Jim Jam's chocolate orange spread, which is 1 sin. Again, just mix all of this together until it's really well combined. Then you can chill it in the fridge for a while whilst the cakes are cooling down, and you need to make sure they're completely cold before you pop the mixture on the top. I served mine with some speedy blueberries and some orange segments, and it was really delicious. It really was lovely. So for your healthy extra B and 3 sins, a really yummy chocolate orange cake. Of course, you could do all sorts of different flavours with this. Just play about with it, using different syrups, different spreads, different flavourings. The possibilities are endless. I'm going to make a Slimming World version of a mince pie, and I'm going to use a wrap instead of the pastry, which helps keep the sins a bit lower. Now, I can't eat wheat, so I'm using a gluten-free wrap, and my wrap is 4.5 sins. I think some wraps are a healthy extra B, so if you wanted to use one that was your healthy extra B, then obviously that would lower the sins even more. But for me, this one's 4.5 sins, and I'm using some Asda mincemeat, which is 2.5 sins per tablespoon. But again, all the mincemeats do vary, so just make sure you check how many sins is in the one that you're using. And then I've just got a pastry brush and a tiny bit of almond milk. You could use egg wash, you could use whatever kind of milk you want, but I've got some almond milk open, so that's what I'm going to use. Firstly, cut your wrap in half. Then measure out 1 tablespoon of whichever mincemeat you've decided to use. Like I say, I was using the Asda one, which is 2.5 sins per tablespoon. And then take half of the tablespoon and place it in one corner of one half of the wrap, and then do the same with the other. And this is what it'll look like. Then use your pastry brush and your milk or egg or whatever you're using to kind of paint round the edges. You can see what I'm doing. I used quite a bit actually, because you'll see why. And then you have to fold the wrap over and press the edges together. And I had to press quite hard actually. The wraps aren't particularly sticky. I don't know if it's because they were gluten-free, but I pressed it really hard and eventually it did stick together after I've moved the other one out of the way. But yeah, just keep at it. Then I went round the edge with a fork and really pressed it down again. You've got to be quite forceful here. And then you end up with little sort of triangular shape, well, parcels I suppose, with little crimped bits where I pressed down with the fork. And then you need to do the same with the other one. Then you need to brush the top of each of the mince pies with a bit of milk or egg or whatever you're using. Whilst they're cooking 180 for about 10 minutes, I made this little kind of sugar thing to go over the top of them, but it's actually just sweetener and cinnamon, so it's sin-free. Just sprinkle some of the mixture over the top of each of the mince pies. And then they're ready to enjoy. Be a bit careful because the filling is really hot, so you do need to let them cool down for a little, a few minutes. But they were really delicious, really yummy, worth 3.5 sins each. Like I said, if you can use a wrap that's your healthy extra B, then the sins, is really low compared to an ordinary mince pie, which I think the ones I had were 12 sins each. So these are well worth the effort. For this biscuit recipe, you're going to need 80 grams of porridge oats. Now this is for 2 healthy extras because I'm making some for myself and also for my husband. If you're only making them for you, just use 40 grams of oats for your healthy extra B. And I've also added in 4 sins of almond flour. Now you don't have to put this in. I'm only putting it in because I want to try and use it up, and I like the taste. So there's 4 sins worth there. I think it was 12 grams. I'm also going to put in a little bit of almond extract, but again, if you don't like the almondy flavour, just leave that out. I'm also going to add ginger, cinnamon and some allspice to make them nice and spicy and festive. Some sweetener, obviously to sweeten them up, and then you'll need an egg as well to bind them. The first thing you need to do is whiz up the oats in your food processor so it turns it into a flour. Then add in your spices. I did about a teaspoon of each, but I'm not one for kind of following recipes, so I just kind of bung things in. And Martin and I both like things very flavourful, and we really like these spices, so I did like a good heaped teaspoon of each of the spices. Well, I think with the cinnamon actually I just sort of shook it in there, but yeah, like I say, I like it to taste really spicy, so don't be afraid of that. With the almond extract, I think I put about half a capful in, and actually I probably would put more next time, so again, don't be afraid of that. With the sweetener, I think I put in a tablespoon to start with, and then a little bit extra as well. Now, some people sin sweetener. I never have done, and I've lost 6.5 stone, but if you want to sin it, then go ahead and sin it, but that's entirely up to you. Then just give it all a good mix together and add your egg and stir it all up together. I have just added another egg because I'm doing 2 lots of oats. So obviously if you're only doing 1 lot of oats, it's 1 egg, but I'm doing double the amount, so 2 eggs, and it should be this sort of dropping consistency. So all you need to do now is pop it onto a fry lighted greaseproof papered baking sheet and pop them in the oven. Here are the finished biscuits. I've just decorated them with a few of the little gingerbread sprinkles that I've got, but you could put some more sweetener over the top of them and a bit more ginger or something if you wanted to. They look really yummy and they smell delicious. And just store them in an airtight container. We just did a little taste test and they're really nice. They're very spicy, which we like. So I would recommend being quite generous with the spices. If you like really sweet things, I would add a little bit more sweetener than I did, but for our palates they were really nice. Don't you think, Martin?
I'm still eating one.
He's still eating his.